All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to SOCH 400 or Race and Ethnicity. It's also cross-listed as an AFA course with, I believe, the same number. And we're going to talk a little bit before we get started on all the lectures and all the other things. I kind of wanted to talk about positionality for a second. As a white woman getting ready to sit up here and talk to you about race for an entire semester, I want to give space and acknowledge the fact that because I am not a person of color, I have never nor could ever experience things through the lens and through the personal experiences of people of color. So, how then does the white woman end up sitting here and talking to you about race? And I kind of wanted to touch base on this. One, I want to talk about power dynamics and the fact that primarily you have white professors teaching these courses because you have primarily white professors. That in and of itself in the education system has created a feedback loop to where the issues when it comes to social concerns or social discriminations or any kind of thing that hits home for those of us in minority groups. And I may not be in minority in race, but I am in other ways, which is not in any way to compare the two. Those individuals don't end up teaching those subjects. Because one, we shouldn't have to teach about our own discriminations. However, some people choose to, and that's valid. Two, I don't think as a white person I can ever be I can read as much scholarship as I want. I can listen as much as I possibly can. I can truly hear other people when they speak to me about these instances, but I can never be 100% a specialist or a what's the word I'm looking for? Or someone who is very well versed in understanding race because I will never experience it in the same way. Now, does that mean that I know nothing and that what I say is coming from a place of ignorance? And for the most part, I'm going to say no, because I have spent a good portion listening and choosing readings and literature and speeches and documentaries and everything I could get my hands on, and thus I will give to you some that I have picked to kind of hopefully create enough diversity. Now, there's never going to be enough space to cover everything I want to cover in this because there is just so much. However, I'm going to try to hit the things that are very important to be handled now in our society, and also talk through the guise of letting other people's words, person of color's words in our writings and our textbooks speak from that experiential place and speak within that power. And I am going to take said white privilege that I have as a professor and the academic privilege I have in being able to work at an institution post graduation and take that privilege, and I'm going to utilize it in a way that hopefully paves a way for a generation and generations of academic scholars that will put me out of business of teaching this particular topic. And I think that that's important to acknowledge. I also find it very important to talk about the fact that we are going to talk about topics in this class that are going to make everyone uncomfortable, because there is not a person in this room, no matter what background you come from, what ethnicity you claim, or what race is given to you, that you could or don't carry some kind of implicit bias towards someone else of a differing race, ethnicity, cultural group. And so what we are going to do is understand that we are all in a place of learning. And while intentional harm is never going to be something that is tolerated. We are going to work through the spaces in which our cultural assumptions are going to be challenged, our probably our education prior to coming into university is going to be challenged. And we're going to do that in a way that is respectful and also critical. And I want to make sure that we make space for both. That does not mean I want you criticizing each other on a personal level. I want you guys to criticize the assumptions that we make of ourselves, right? The assumptions that we as a society carry around, the power dynamics in which we rely on and or fall victim to. Okay. And we're going to talk through those through this class. And my job is to make sure that as we do so in the most liberating, affirmative, inclusive way possible. And so if any of these things become an issue as we move through this course, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And also do not feel you ever have to or are being called to speak on any position you carry within a society. That is something that I do not expect or maintain that any of my students have to do. And especially when we are talking about things that are as personal as race, culture, ethnicity, we need to be able to both shy away from topics that we don't want to have to speak for an entire group, and also be able to put forth perspective when we want to about a particular critique we might have on society, right? Okay, so I just wanted to kind of get all of this out, get it all out there before we start all this lectures, because we're going to go into, unfortunately, the heavy stuff first, because we have to get into a history of how we look at race, right? A history of how America got to where we are and where sociology really is at this juncture. And that way we can move forward in talking about all the different kinds of institutions and policies and law and discriminations that we have in this country. Okay, that's not going to be the only thing we talk about, but it is going to be a heavy through line as we work through this class. So I hope you enjoy. I hope this particular part does not scare you off. However, if you do have questions or concerns following this video, just in general about the course, please do not hesitate to shoot me an email, to request a Zoom meeting, whatever will make you feel most comfortable, so that we can kind of talk through those concerns so that you can figure out what kind of a fit this would be for you. Okay, so have a wonderful semester, and I'm going to cut this one off here and get right back into our lectures on American history.